I'm very excited to have the opportunity today to share more detailed information with you about our distance learning plan. As we start though, of course, we still don't have all the answers, but I do want everyone to know that our team is working tirelessly to make sure that we design the most equitable system possible in support of our students, parents, and teachers. So as Dr. Brabrand said, this morning's presentation will focus on that distance learning plan, talking a little bit about where we've been, where we are currently, and where we're going. Very importantly is to dig into the instructional model. We know that that's of most important concern to our students, parents, and teachers, and then providing some updates on that VDOE guidance around grading, graduation, promotion, and SOL testing. Now, as we begin, I do want to call everybody's attention to the image on the right-hand side of the screen. That is an image that represents our complete distance learning plan that is posted to board docs today, and it is published on our website. So this is really our attempt to try to provide the most detailed information about the work that we're doing regarding distance learning in one cohesive space. So again, it is posted on both board docs and on our website. And I certainly would direct our community members to that document for review for more detailed information. So to start this morning, I did want to acknowledge some of the challenges as we've been working on developing distance learning in Fairfax County. And I think folks are aware of a number of these, but just to highlight a few challenges that we have faced, we do have a VDOE directive that school divisions could not require any new instruction during the past 2 weeks of our school closure period as directed by the governor and the state superintendent of schools. Unfortunately, we also face some limited technology availability for students in Fairfax. We are not a one-to-one technology district like many of our surrounding school divisions in the state. We have incredible complexity with the scope and the scale of our system of trying to serve 189,000 students and 16,000 teachers to prepare for distance learning. And we've been thinking a lot about how we can most equitably support all of our students, but particularly making sure that we can provide support to our special populations who might face additional challenges in a distance learning environment. We've been working to develop and deliver just-in-time teacher training in a virtual format, which is incredibly challenging. And of course, transferring curriculum into a format that we could put online in a way that would be accessible to students and to parents. And we've also been working with print vendors and mail distribution facilities to try to figure out how we can get printed packets delivered to homes across Fairfax County, because we know many of our families will not have the technology access that they need to be as successful in distance learning as they should be able to be. So we're trying to make sure that we're providing both print materials as well as technology resources to our families. And it's been difficult. We've been working on gaining copyright permissions for materials that we can broadcast on Channel 21 and live stream. And then of course, copyright materials for things that we're distributing in print. And then probably the most important challenge that we all need to keep in mind is that our staff members are facing the same challenges in terms of working from home and trying to balance their professional responsibilities and their family responsibilities at the same time as maintaining a focus on their own health and safety over the past several weeks. So with those challenges in mind, though, I do want to highlight that we've had a number of successes over these past 2 weeks. We've been able to develop and deploy resources to support continuity of learning, and we were able to publish numerous resources and make those available electronically to our community on the first day of school closure on March 13th. We've developed resources that are organized by every grade level, have supports for special populations, students with disabilities, English language learners. All of those materials require minimal supplies or preparation on the part of families and caregivers. And we've had over 1.5 million resource views. And that was updated as of Wednesday of this week. So that number is even higher today. We provided information to our families translated into our top 8 languages spoken in FCPS about how to access and utilize those resources. And we've developed new educational content in literacy and math that is being broadcast on our cable channels and live streamed on our website. And that's been really exciting. And those broadcasts have received positive feedback from our community members so far. We're in the process of distributing up to 15,000 laptops and MiFi devices. And that is in accordance with strict health guidelines to make sure that the most important thing when we're distributing devices is that we're maintaining the health, safety, and welfare of our community members and our staff members. And we have mailed learning packets to all of our students in grades preschool through grade 8. And those learning materials will provide instructional resources and supports to those families to use next week. So we're very excited to be able to get those materials out to our families. And I do want to mention that we are also working on an opt-out provision for families that might not want to receive those materials by mail, but we felt for the beginning of our distance learning plan, it was important with an equity lens that we get those materials out to all of our families until we hear from families that might not need to receive them in the future via mail. So looking at our timeline for resuming instruction, again, this week, March 23rd through the 27th, we've been doing a lot of work around technology distribution, have distributed thousands of laptops and MiFi devices. We've been preparing our leaders, our school-based leaders, our school-based technology specialists, and our principals with training and materials that they can use with their staff to support their staff during next week, March 30th through April 3rd. The week will begin with staff meetings and kickoffs on Monday, where teachers will receive training and preparation to provide distance learning to their students. Our teachers that week will also be reconnecting with students. They'll be providing them with review materials. They'll begin to collect missing assignments and get those assignments recorded into the student information system. And then, of course, those learning packets are being delivered, as I mentioned, to all of our students in grades pre-K through 8. And then on April 14th, we say that instruction resumes. And the nuance here that I want everybody to understand is that this is new instruction and teacher-directed instruction. But it is important to remember that we have been providing learning resources to our students since the first day of school closure, with the understanding that those materials could not be required, were entirely optional, and would not be graded. But it was important for us to make sure that our students had access to learning materials from the beginning of this closure period. So we're going to move into taking a look at our distance learning plan. But I want to start out with just emphasizing some of our guiding principles that's important to have in our background and as context when we look at the distance learning plan. And the first is really with respect to our teachers. They're going to require time to develop their lesson plans, to provide that direct guided instruction to students, to check in with individual students. And of course, they have to balance their work and family responsibilities during the school closure period. Additionally, our school counselors and psychologists and social workers are going to need a significant amount of time to check in with individual students and families. And they have that same professional and personal balance issues that they need to be aware of and that we need to be supportive of as well. And then most importantly, our students, there are different developmental considerations in terms of designing distance learning for students. We have to think about age appropriateness, screen time issues, attention spans, the ability to be engaged in independent learning. And then we need to be thinking about the instructional design as it relates to all of those items. And then we always need to remember that student access and support structures are going to vary widely. So we always need to be thinking with an equity lens when we're designing our instructional experiences. And then our families and caregivers are critical to success during this time. So they have to provide learning supports in ways that they haven't perhaps done so in the past. They're going to need to be more involved in scheduling and structuring learning opportunities. And they're going to be asked to take on these responsibilities at a time where they have to balance those with their own family responsibilities. And we need to be cognizant of that and respectful of that as we work with our families and caregivers. So here you see essentially the distance learning plan encapsulated into a single slide. These are the most important points that we want people to understand about what distance learning is going to look like at the various levels. So for high school, students will receive virtual teacher-led instruction in all of their courses. They'll receive print materials in specialized instances, for example, where students have accommodations English language development needs, for instance. We are resuming our online campus beginning on Monday the 30th, and we're initiating online economics and personal finance for students who had registered to complete that course in the summer. That will begin on Monday the 30th as well. At the middle school level, as I mentioned, we're providing learning packets distributed by mail to all of our students in the 4 core, which is language arts, math, science, and social studies. They'll have those on Monday the 30th. And we're providing virtual teacher-led instruction in those core courses and world language courses for high school credit as well. Our elective teachers will be providing individual supports and posting learning activities to Blackboard to extend independent learning opportunities in all of the subjects in a student's schedule. At the elementary level, the core will be our centrally created learning packets. Those will be delivered in grades pre-K through 6 at the elementary level. They'll be supplemented with virtual teacher-led instruction where students have access to technology. So that could look like instruction over the computer, and where students might not have computer access, we'll be working to try to provide some opportunities for phone connections with our students. And then, as I mentioned, we have new content that is going to be streaming on Channel 21, broadcast on Channel 21, and streamed on our website in literacy and math. And that content is already in place, but starting on Monday, that content will be aligned to the content in the learning packets that students are receiving. And then all of the elementary specialist teachers will be posting activities to Blackboard to extend student learning opportunities and independent study as well. So that's the overview. And to look at the instructional model in more detail, we'll start by taking a look at the elementary instructional model. And here you see at the top of this slide that students will receive approximately 2 hours per day of virtual teacher-directed instruction and individualized student support. They'll have an additional 2 to 3 hours a day of student independent study and choice activities. And what that's going to look like in terms of a sample schedule is illustrated on this slide. But I do want to point out that each of our elementary schools will be designing the beginning and ending times of their individual school schedules that best meet the needs of their faculty and their school communities. What that's going to look like across all 146 of our elementary schools, though, is that there will be a morning block of virtual teacher-directed instruction, shown on the sample is from 8:30 to 9:30, a morning block of independent study where students can access the learning packets, additional materials that have been posted by their core teachers, general classroom teachers, their specials teachers. And then there will be an afternoon block that will be similar in that there's an opportunity for individualized student support directly with teachers and an independent study block. And then, of course, ongoing will be the Channel 21 instruction that we'll be providing. That's Monday through Thursday in terms of that schedule. And then on Friday, we think that it's very important that teachers have time to work with their teams on planning, times to connect with individual students and families that may have questions, and times to post assignments, respond to emails, and the like. So this is what the elementary schedule would look like. And we'll take a look now at what the secondary schedule will look like. And here you see that the middle school and the high school schedules are very similar. Similar to the elementary schedule, there's a day for teacher planning and teacher work time to make sure that we're able to provide high quality instructional support to our students. And then Tuesday through Friday at the secondary schedule, students will follow their bell schedule. So on the middle school schedule, for example, we have direct teacher instruction following the bell schedule 2 days a week here on Wednesday and Friday. And then 2 days a week of independent study where teachers will be able to provide learning activities at the middle school level to supplement the instructional packets that we're developing. So students on Tuesdays and Thursdays will have the opportunity to complete those independent learning opportunities, as well as office hours will be provided by our teachers where students can get individual instructional support. And we think that creating time for those office hours is critically important, particularly for our students that might struggle with access issues regarding technology. Similar to the middle school schedule is the high school schedule. And the main difference here is that you see our bell schedules for direct instruction are on Tuesday and Thursday. And the reason that we've designed these on the opposite days from middle school to high school is that we do believe that there will be families where students in the home might be attending middle school and high school in the same family. And we want to make sure that they're able to optimize the use of technology resources that they have in the home. They might need to share computers, for example, and providing a staggered schedule across middle school and high school like this, we believe would make the most efficient use of limited technology resources that many of our families might face. I want to share with you briefly some of the staff expectations that we've shared with our principals and our principal training. The expectation that staff are going to collaboratively plan synchronous and asynchronous learning activities. And when we talk about synchronous learning, we're talking about those real-time teacher and student interactions that are occurring in real time in a virtual learning environment. We're asking our teachers again to establish office hours that can be communicated to our families to make sure that our students who need individualized student support from their teachers will get it. We want to make sure that our staff is reaching to students and families who may not be engaging in distance learning activities. And then we want to make sure that we're responding in a timely manner to parent and student communication issues and concerns. And of course, participating in collaborative meetings, staff meetings, and professional development as scheduled by school principals. And we're going to be providing ongoing professional development throughout the remainder of the year and best practices in virtual instruction and in distance learning to our staff members. If you're not a classroom teacher, you play a critically important role in the success of our distance learning plan. I won't go into this slide in detail, but every staff member has an important role to play. A few people that I would just highlight are our school-based technology specialists and our technology support specialists. We are incredibly fortunate in Fairfax that we have specialists like this in our schools. Now more than ever, they are going to be called on to be leaders in their school communities and support the teachers in providing high quality instruction to students. Our related service providers are going to be critical in providing those individual connections with students and families. And then all of our other specialists, librarians, career center specialists, counselors, psychologists, social workers, will be working to plan and coach and support work with our collaborative teams and individual teachers to make sure that this plan is a success. I also want to highlight that we recognize that we need to do a lot to provide support and resources to our special populations. With regard to students with disabilities, we're going to be providing instructional packets similar to those that I mentioned for the general population that will be distributed by mail and posted electronically for all of our students, pre-K through 8, and in high school courses where students are accessing an adapted curriculum. So again, resources delivered by mail and posted electronically in early childhood, adapted curriculum, and to support students in accessing the general curriculum, helping them with learning strategies, establishing routines, and individualized student supports. Additionally, our Department of Special Services has developed an accommodations toolbox that can be accessed and used by teachers, students, and families, and are working really hard with our related and additional service providers, communications, OT, PT, hearing, and vision to make sure that those supports are provided to our students. A lot of training will happen for our teachers who are working to support students with disabilities. There's training on the updated federal and state guidance on special education procedures that we have planned, training in using that accommodations toolbox, training in using our online platforms to deliver instruction, for example, how to implement virtual special education meetings, how to meet case management expectations, including communications with parents, how to meet those instructional expectations, how to support IEP accommodations, just to name a few. We also are developing and providing a lot of supports and resources for our teachers who are working with our English language learners and for those students and families directly. We're providing weekly supplemental instructional packets to all of our students in pre-K-8 with respect to English language development. And English language development includes reading, writing, listening, and speaking activities in those packets. We're also developing high school packets that will be distributed to all of our high school English language learners in our newcomer courses. So those students that might be at an English language proficiency level of 1 or 2, we want to make sure that they're continuing to grow in their English language skills. Our teachers, our ESOL teachers, will play a critical role in the distance learning plan. They'll deliver direct ELD instruction to our students, but they'll also support our general education teachers with their content instruction, and they're collaborating with our special education teachers to support our duly identified students. Also on Channel 21, we're providing multilingual read alouds and math content. And our multilingual staff is continuing to support students and families that might have technology and logistical support needs. And our parent liaisons are doing an amazing job partnering with our language services office to do everything that we can to provide interpretations and translation services so that we can communicate effectively with our English learner families. So I want to shift now from what I've shared previously about what we're doing in our distance learning plan to some of the VDOE guidance that we received earlier this week. And I greatly appreciate the state superintendent making himself available twice a week to provide us with briefings and to collaborate with us on policies moving forward. So the first area is around grading. And the VDOE guidance reminds us that it's our local school divisions that have the authority to determine our grading policies. But we have been reminded that those grading policies during distance learning need to address and reflect the issues of equity and access that we've been discussing previously. They have provided that alternative measures could and should be discussed when thinking about grading during the distance learning period. One example being pass-fail marks that could be provided. However, the VDOE does not recommend grading work that's completed during the school closure. So that's the first 2 weeks of school closure throughout the remainder of the school year until our school system reopens. VDOE is recommending that we do not grade student work. So with those recommendations and guidance in mind, we've been working on our plans for how we would address grading in Fairfax. And we've taken an approach of thinking about application of our existing grading policies. How would we apply our existing grading policies during distance learning? So for secondary courses, our middle school and our high school courses, what we're proposing that we'll do is that we would close our third quarter grades as of March 13th. That was the first day of school closure. And what it means to close grades is that nothing after March 13th would be graded. So we wouldn't create any required activities after March 13th that would be graded. However, students would have an opportunity to continue to submit work and missing assignments that had been assigned prior to March 13th. So what this would allow us to do is give students a period of time whereby they could reconnect with their teachers, submit work that had been assigned prior to March 13th, and have that work count as part of their grade prior to March 13th as part of their third quarter grade. And we want to keep that grading window open as long as possible. And we're looking to extend that pretty deep into April. We're talking about April 24th, for example, of keeping that grading window open for students to submit missing work that was assigned prior to March 13th. Once that grading window closes, we would assign a third quarter grade. Looking forward then into fourth quarter, we would assign a no mark for fourth quarter. Following that VDOE guidance that no work during school closure should be graded, we would assign a no mark for fourth quarter. But what we would do is apply our current mastery learning grading policies in Fairfax to allow students work during the fourth quarter to positively influence their overall final grade for the year. Because remember how our grading policies work in Fairfax is that we average the quarters, each of the 4 quarters, to calculate a final mark for the year, a final grade for the year that goes on a student's transcript. And our grading policies ask teachers to look at growth and mastery learning, so to look for those positive trends to positively influence students' grades over the course of the year. So we believe that this policy would allow us the most flexibility to do what's in students' best interest, to make sure that the work that they're doing could be reflected in their positively in their overall grade for the year. It's also important to note that that no mark that would be assigned during fourth quarter would not show on a student's final transcript. At the end of the year, the only thing that would be recorded on a student's final transcript would be that final grade. Now, at the elementary level, we're proposing that nothing be graded after March 13th for third quarter, and that no fourth quarter grades be assigned because of the equity of access issues that are going to be even more profound, we believe, at the elementary grades, and because of our limited ability for students to be able to submit work, because we're providing a lot of packet-based learning opportunities to students, and we do not have a way currently to collect those materials. I want to move next to the VDOE guidance that we've received on graduation. And again, I want to thank the state superintendent who has said that we want to make sure that our policies at the state level and at the local level provide maximum flexibility for our students. So first, VDOE is going to provide maximum flexibility to ensure that any senior who is on track as of the date of school closure will graduate on time, and they do not need to worry about that. Students in underclass grades, juniors, sophomores, current freshmen, VDOE is going to provide maximum flexibility to ensure that those students who are on track at the date of school closure will be able to be promoted. VDOE is also noting that they will require school divisions to identify the essential content standards that had not been taught as of March 13th, and to come up with a plan that is equitable to incorporate the missing content into the curriculum. And VDOE has provided 4 options that are outlined here. The first is that school systems can provide instruction during the closure period. That is what we are planning to do, as I just discussed in our distance learning plan. And as we do that, we have to be making sure that we're taking into consideration equitable access issues. VDOE suggests that school systems can also offer instruction during the summer of 2020. That is something that we can also consider doing to make sure that any students that need supplemental services to what we have been providing during our distance learning plan could get those in the summer. And then the third and the fourth options are providing instruction by adjusting this school year's calendar or next school year's calendar, or incorporating learning modules into courses next year that would cover that content that was not able to be covered this year. So those are the 4 options that VDOE has provided. And of course, we are working currently on providing option 1, and we can continue to work with board members to consider the other 3 options as necessary moving forward as well. And then the last slide is the VDOE guidance around our standards of learning tests. And again, VDOE is going to offer the maximum flexibility allowed under state and federal law for testing requirements. VDOE will apply for a waiver from the federal government with respect to testing requirements under the Every Student Succeeds Act. And VDOE has noted that school divisions can offer SOL end of course tests that students need to pass in certain instances for locally awarded verified credit during an extended testing window that would be open through September of 2020. But that is optional, not required testing.